I'm Dr. Mark Hatala, and I want to welcome you to my office. I'm a cognitive scientist who studies time travel by replicating days from the past. And so everything that someone who was alive on a particular day would be exposed to, from early morning newspapers through late night television and everything in between. The day that we're talking about today is February 9th, 1964. That's my Paul McCartney imitation. And this is the night that the Beatles appeared for the first time on the Ed Sullivan Show. And what I want to talk about is science in 1964. And so I brought along Science Digest. And I expect to catch hell, is what it says. This is the Kinsey report on marriage as it really is. Science Digest, we'll get to that in a minute, but Science Digest was published from 1937 to 1988. And it was intended for a general reader, but educated reader, to catch up with progress in science and technology. And so it was really a lot like Reader's Digest in that they took research and they kind of boiled it down for a general reader to understand. So, so let's talk about 4 different articles that are in here, all which I think are really interesting. The first is called Sex and Marriage as It Really Is. And the lead researcher says that for the average couple, sex is a Saturday night ritual which is brief, predictable, and it's an encounter where the parties are both anesthetized by alcohol. So, romance. It's interesting because they also talk about different types of love, like vitality and conflict, and what makes for a happy marriage. And it's interesting to me because I teach romantic relationships. I teach a course in it. And it tracks fairly well with the current theory, which is Sternberg's triangular theory, that says that essentially consummate love, which is the best kind of love, is made up of 3 different components, which is passion, intimacy, and commitment. And so it's interesting to read the state of the art on love and marriage research in 1964. The second article is also about SSTs. Now, this is in another video too, Supersonic Transports. There's also an article in Fortune magazine this month on the exact same topic, except Science Digest takes a different view of supersonic transports. Their concern is radiation exposure of female pregnant passengers and whether this is dangerous to go up in this supersonic transport. They also make an interesting prediction that by the mid-1970s, there will be 125 Concords. Now again, the Concorde was a supersonic transport that was actually built by, it was an Anglo-French consortium that built them. But they predicted 125 would be flying by the mid-1970s. They were only off by 111 because only 14 Concords were ever built, and then they stopped flying them. The third article is called The Poet is a Computer, and it's an utterly fascinating article to me as a cognitive scientist because they were trying to teach an RCA 301 computer to write poetry. And the woman who was in charge of this project, her name's Claire Philippi, and she came up with the idea. You can read the poems in the article. They're pretty short. But she was only 26 when she started this research, and I've tried to find her so that I could interview her basically for this video. She retired from Unisys in 2005, and then I couldn't find her after that. But if you know her, put her in touch, or if you are her, leave it in the comments. The last article is about that Columbus wasn't first. And this gets into the idea of who discovered America. Now, it's a different question to ask. Can anybody discover a continent where people have been living for thousands of years? But that's not the question they ask. What they're interested in is Norse settlement in Newfoundland. So this is cutting-edge archaeological research in 1964. And the work continues to go on there too. It's in L'Anse-Maudot, Newfoundland, and they find these stone structures which were built by Vikings And so they've been trying to date how long they were there and how large the encampment was and all that sort of thing. But it still goes on today too, that research. I will put links to all of these below, and so you can read them for yourself. And while you're at timetravelsimplified.com, why not become a time traveler? And hey, buy my book, Beatles in America, February 9th, 1964. It's guaranteed. Our motto is, it's time travel or it's free. If you'd like to support my research on Patreon, I put a link below to that too. I'd appreciate if you liked and subscribed and shared this video. And otherwise, have a great day.